All right, so picture this. You're at the top, emperor of a vast empire.
Yeah.
But then, boom, you're defeated, exiled to a tiny island.
Elba.
That's right, Elba. It happened to Napoleon.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating part of his life.
You know, that period between his major defeats.
Exactly. Kind of exile, but also like reinvention.
And maybe some simmering ambition.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, we're going to use some excerpts from the Noble Blood podcast
Great podcast.
to dive deep into this whole Elba thing.
Sounds good.
So what did Napoleon actually do with his time there?
Right.
Was he, like, content, just puttering around? Or was he secretly scheming?
Plotting that comeback.
Yeah, plotting his return. Let's find out.
Okay, so first, some context.
Okay.
Napoleon's defeat in Russia
Right.
in 1814
Yeah.
led to his abdication, and then exile to Elba,
Elba.
a small island off the
Okay.
coast of Italy.
Not exactly what you'd expect for a former emperor, right?
True, but the terms of his exile, they were surprisingly pretty generous. He got to keep the title, Emperor of Elba.
Wow.
They gave him a small army and even promised a pension,
Oh, nice.
although France never actually paid it.
Oh, so he's got this island, an army, a fancy title, but no money.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of like a recipe for trouble.
You'd think so, but Napoleon, he wasn't the type to just, sit around feeling sorry for himself.
Right.
He got busy ruling Elba,
Oh, wow.
tackling these infrastructure projects, reorganizing the mines. He even conquered a nearby uninhabited rock.
What?
Yeah, just to prove he still could.
Oh, wow. I guess old habits die hard.
Yeah.
But what about, like, his personal life? Was he lonely? Did he miss all the, the trappings of power?
He definitely missed his family, like really longed for his wife, Marie-Louise, and their son to join him on Elba. He even had like rooms prepared for them in his newly renovated palace.
Oh, wow. So it sounds like he was hoping for, like, a cozy family life
Yeah.
in exile. Did that work out?
Sadly, no.
Oh.
Marie-Louise's Austrian family, they were like horrified at the thought of her going to Elba with Napoleon.
I mean, I guess you can't really blame them after everything that had happened.
Right.
But how did Napoleon cope, being separated from his wife and son?
Well, there's a story about Marie Walewska, his Polish mistress.
Okay.
She actually visited Elba with their son.
Oh, wow.
And it caused quite a stir among the islanders.
I bet.
Some of them mistook her for the empress.
Oh, so there's, like, some scandal mixed into the whole exile thing.
Definitely add some spice. And Napoleon, always aware of his image, he sent Marie away
Oh.
once the rumor started. Couldn't risk jeopardizing a reunion
Mhm.
with Marie-Louise.
Right. Makes sense. So it sounds like he was walking this kind of tightrope, trying to, like, keep his dignity and authority, but also dealing with all these, complicated personal relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. And all this is happening under the watchful eye of Colonel Neil Campbell, a British officer assigned to attend Napoleon on Elba.
What does that even mean? Was he, like, a bodyguard, spy, babysitter?
It's kind of intriguing, right? Campbell's role was never really clearly defined. He was supposed to protect Napoleon, observe his activities, and report back to the British government.
Wow.
But he was also expected to, be somewhat friendly, maintain a cordial relationship with Napoleon.
Talk about an awkward situation.
Right.
You have to wonder what was going through Campbell's mind. Just stuck on this island with Napoleon,
Yeah.
trying to figure out, is he a threat? Or is he just, a bored retiree?
I know, it's fascinating. And Campbell's observations, they give us some really valuable insight into Napoleon's daily life and state of mind. He noted Napoleon's restless energy, his focus on work, and his growing anxieties about finances, since France wasn't paying his pension.
So even in exile, Napoleon couldn't escape the realities of, like, politics and economics. Was he, like, actually content with this quiet life? Yeah. Or was there something else brewing beneath the surface?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
Some historians argue he was genuinely trying to make the best of it on Elba, building a new life, hoping his family would join him.
Yeah.
But others believe his ambition never really went away.
Right.
He was just biding his time, waiting for the right moment to make his move.
It seems like there's evidence to support both sides. What do you think?
It's tough to say.
Was Napoleon content on Elba? Or was he always plotting his comeback?
Well, let's take a closer look at what he was actually doing there.
Okay, let's do that. Let's dive into Napoleon, Emperor of Elba, and see if we can uncover any clues about his true intentions.
Sounds like a plan. It's kind of funny, actually. Napoleon's activities on Elba, they were this weird mix of, like, empire building and, I don't know, almost like domesticity. He redesigned the Elba flag, like completely redid it.
Wow.
Improved infrastructure, reformed the legal system, all with his, signature energy.
Yeah. Sounds like he was trying to create a mini empire, even in exile.
Yeah.
But do the sources say if this was like a genuine effort to improve Elba? Or was it more about him, needing to be in control?
I mean, it's hard to say for sure, but it is worth noting that a lot of his improvements, they actually did benefit the people living there.
Oh, interesting.
The economy got better, agricultural production increased. He even started like a public health system.
So maybe a little bit of both.
Right.
Like he genuinely wanted to improve things, but also couldn't shake that need to rule.
Yeah, that's probably a fair assessment.
But still, all this island building, it doesn't exactly scream plotting a comeback.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, this is where things get interesting. See, while Napoleon was busy with his projects, he was also keeping a close eye on everything happening in France. And remember, the Bourbon king, Louis XVIII, he wasn't exactly popular.
Right, right. So the seeds of discontent, they were already there. Napoleon wasn't just building a new life. He was waiting for the right moment to, like, reclaim his old one.
Exactly. And the Congress of Vienna, remember them? They were meeting to, redraw the map of Europe after Napoleon's defeat. Well, they kind of inadvertently played right into his hands.
Oh, how so?
Well, they made some decisions that really alienated a lot of French people. And that just fueled this resentment towards the monarchy.
Wow, so while they're busy dividing up Europe, they're also, like, laying the groundwork for Napoleon's return. Talk about unintended consequences.
Yeah, and Napoleon, he was a master at exploiting situations like that. He understood propaganda, he knew how to present himself as the savior of France.
Right, right. Okay, I'm starting to see how this whole Elba exile, it wasn't just defeat, it was more like a strategic retreat. A chance to regroup, watch his enemies make mistakes.
Exactly. And when the time was right, he made his move. On February 26, 1815, while Colonel Campbell was, conveniently, off the island,
Oh, really?
Napoleon set sail for France with a small but very loyal force.
Can you imagine Campbell's reaction
Oh, yeah.
when he found out? I bet he was like, wait, what?
I know, right?
Yeah.
The sources describe him scrambling,
Yeah.
trying to figure out what happened,
Yeah.
and then frantically trying to warn the British government.
Oh, man, I bet those folks at the Congress of Vienna were not happy either.
Not at all.
They're trying to, restore order to Europe, and the guy they just exiled decides to make a comeback. What a mess.
Total wrench in their plans.
Napoleon's return, it wasn't just a daring escape.
No.
It was a calculated gamble.
Absolutely.
I mean, he lands on the French coast and then just marches towards Paris,
Yeah.
gathering support along the way. How did he pull that off?
It was brilliant, honestly. It was this mix of military strategy and political theater. He appealed directly to the people,
Oh, wow.
reminded them of, past glories, and presented himself as the only one who could restore France's greatness.
It's like something out of a movie. This larger-than-life figure returning from exile to reclaim his throne.
It's pretty epic.
But did he face any resistance?
Oh, he did. There's this one famous encounter. A regiment of royalist soldiers. They blocked his path.
Oh.
They were ready to arrest him.
That must have been intense. What happened?
So Napoleon, being Napoleon, he walks right up to them,
Oh, wow.
throws open his coat, and says, "If any of you will shoot his emperor, here I am."
Whoa. That takes guts.
Ah.
Did they shoot him?
Nope. You see, those soldiers, they had fought under Napoleon. They'd seen his brilliance on the battlefield, and a lot of them, they were disillusioned with the Bourbon monarchy. They weren't happy.
So instead of arresting him, they joined him.
Yep. And that was a turning point. From that moment on, his march to Paris, it became this, triumphant procession. The 100 Days had begun.
The 100 Days. Is that what they called his second reign?
Yeah.
That sounds kind of ominous, knowing how it all ended.
Yeah, it's a fitting name, though. It captures both the shortness of it, but also the drama.
Right.
Napoleon was back on the throne, but his enemies, they were closing in. The final act was about to begin.
Wow. But what about Marie-Louise? Did she finally join him when he returned to power?
Unfortunately, no. She stayed in Austria with their son, basically a prisoner of her own family.
That's so sad. He achieves the impossible, returns from exile, becomes emperor again, but his wife and son aren't there to share it with him.
It really adds this layer of tragedy to the whole story, doesn't it? Napoleon had everything he supposedly ever wanted. Power, glory, a nation at his command. But he was also, very clearly, a man marked by loss and longing.
It makes you wonder, If he ever regretted leaving Elba, maybe life on that island, even with its limitations, offered a kind of peace he couldn't find anywhere else.
Maybe. But before we get too deep into those existential questions,
Okay.
there's one more intriguing piece of this whole Elba puzzle that we need to talk about.
Oh, really? I'm all ears. What is it?
It's about the Treaty of Fontainebleau, remember? The one Napoleon signed.
Yeah, the one where he agreed to, like, exile on Elba.
Right, his ticket to a quiet life, or so they thought.
Ruling a tiny island.
Yeah.
But we know how that turned out.
Yeah, not exactly peaceful retirement. Well, here's the thing. Years later, this American history professor, John William Rooney, he walked right out of the French National Archives
Okay.
with the last copy of the treaty.
He stole it.
It seems that way. And get this, it took years for anyone to even notice.
Seriously.
He was only caught when he tried to sell it, through Sotheby's.
Wow, that's bold. I mean, it's almost as audacious as Napoleon escaping Elba.
Right, there's this kind of delicious irony to it.
I know, right?
The document that basically sealed Napoleon's surrender and exile, stolen in this act of, like, historical defiance.
Yeah, almost like a mirror image of Napoleon himself.
Yeah.
You know how he plundered all that art during his conquest?
Exactly.
Okay, that's a great story, but what does that have to do with Napoleon's time on Elba?
Well, I think it shows just how much this period, it still fascinates people.
Yeah.
Even decades later, people were so captivated by Napoleon, they were willing to break the law just to own a piece of his story.
It's like the Elba exile became this blank space in history, and everyone could project their own interpretations onto it.
Right. Was he a fallen hero? A scheming villain? Or just, I don't know, a man caught in the gears of history? This stolen treaty, it just adds another layer to the debate.
I like that. It's like everyone was trying to figure out the real Napoleon.
Exactly.
Oh, and what about Colonel Campbell? We left him, kind of in a panic
Oh, yeah, poor Campbell.
after Napoleon sailed off. What happened to him?
Let's just say he didn't exactly get a hero's welcome.
Oh, no.
When he got back to England,
Really?
he was blamed for letting Napoleon escape, accused of being naive, incompetent.
Oh, man, that's rough. I mean, first he gets attacked by those Russian highwaymen.
I know, right?
His luggage stolen. Practically ignored by the Foreign Office.
Mm-hmm.
Falls for a mysterious countess. And then gets blamed for Napoleon's escape.
Yeah, it wasn't his best trip.
Talk about a rough time. I guess it shows that even though Napoleon lost his empire, he was still capable of, like, causing chaos.
Yeah.
And really messing with the lives of those around him. Even in exile, he was a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. And I think that brings us to one of the key takeaways from this whole deep dive.
Okay.
Napoleon's time on Elba, it wasn't just some random footnote in history. It was crucial, a turning point. And it actually kind of set the stage for his return to power.
So he wasn't just, like, passively waiting around.
Sure.
He was actively shaping his own destiny, even in exile.
Exactly. He used his time on Elba strategically, building alliances, gathering information, creating this narrative that would really resonate with the French people.
Right.
So when the opportunity came knocking, he was ready.
Wow, that's powerful. It's like a reminder that even when we face setbacks, we still have the power to control our own story, shape our future.
I like that. And that brings us to a final thought.
Okay.
Something for you to ponder. What if Napoleon had stayed on Elba? Would he have been content with his little island kingdom? Or would that ambition, that drive, would it have just eaten him alive? What does that say about, I don't know, the nature of power, ambition, this desire for legacy?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
It makes you think. Napoleon's time on Elba, it's more than just history.
It is.
It's like a reflection on, I don't know, the human condition, all its complexities,
I don't know.
contradictions.
If you're as fascinated by this period as we are,
Yeah.
we really encourage you to check out the many books, resources, all that's available on it. It's a wild ride.
It is.
And if you're looking for more thought-provoking deep dives like this one,
Oh, yeah?
be sure to subscribe to The Deep Dive.
That's right.
We'll be back soon with another journey into the depths of knowledge.